You mentioned you got the letters. Do you do research like that? I mean, for something like 28 Days or...
28 Days, I actually went and did some time at rehab, at a rehab place.
Just for research purposes?
Just for research purposes. It's not my demon. And, you know, I had enough people I love struggle with that there was a certain amount of personal, long-time research that went into it. A lot of research for Erin Brockovich. And yeah, I tend to want to really know what I'm writing about, and it always just gives you stuff you can use, you know? But in Catch and Release, there's somebody it opens up at the funeral of someone. And, you know, I just sat down with an estate lawyer and said, so what happens? What do you do? I haven't actually lost somebody close enough that I had to actually deal with his or her estate. I've never had to go through it. Right. And so much of the movement of the story came from that conversation with him. Well, you have to do this and you have to do that, you know. So it only helps. You know, the worst that happens is you spend 2 hours talking to someone and nothing comes of it, but something always comes of it. Something always comes of looking at something or reading, talking to someone.
Do you read a lot of scripts?
I don't really. I don't.
Have you in the past? Well, you said
I did. When I was at school, I read
right?
a lot. But I don't read them so much now.
What did you find useful about them?
The rewriting. Because at AFI, they had a really good collection of first drafts and subsequent drafts. So the rewriting I found really helpful. And, you know, when you go into film school, all you hear is, oh, the script was destroyed by development. Oh, they had tacked on this horrible ending. You know, you just hear that kind of thing a lot. And the more scripts I read, the more I realized they got better as they got worked on more.
Really?
Yeah. And I looked at all the movies I really loved, and I looked at initial drafts, and I thought, oh, that's getting better.
What were some of the ones that you really felt?
I wish I could remember what the specifics of it were, but I remember looking at a few drafts of Witness and seeing that it had improved. Or grown in the direction of the movie I loved, anyway.
And you don't read them now just because you don't have time, or because you don't care what else goes on in the business, or?
I don't read them now, partly a matter of time, and there's so many things that I don't feel like they're constructive for my screenwriting, you know, or for my work, and I don't find them that enjoyable, and I don't like reading a script before I've seen the movie. I don't see the upside, you know. I don't hate reading scripts, but I don't, unless I read scripts of friends who want some feedback on it. But
do you ever show yours to people?
Yeah, I show them to a couple
what do you
of friends.
find useful about that? I mean, do you usually give it with specific requests, or
no? I have two people. You know, my husband and a very good friend both read my stuff, and you know, they're people I can show anything to. I could show them 120 pages of Drek, and they would still love me. You know, so they're.
But are they able to be critical?
They're both very good at being critical, and I don't give it with anything, and because I want to hear, I'm confused here. What are you going for here? This, you know, that's what I want to hear. And we've read each other's stuff for like 14 years, so we know what we're all looking for.
They have a pretty good shorthand at this point.
Yeah, and we're all, you know, the other thing about reading is that you, as the writer, has to genuinely be looking for feedback. And in my experience, a lot of times people will give a script to somebody to read for validation more than feedback.
Right.
Please tell me I'm done. Please tell me is what, and that's, you know, when you find a couple of people and you're all operating under the same rules, don't judge, you just want to make it better, help me make it better, and then, you know, you cling to them.
We have a little screenwriting exercise for you. Don't worry, it's called The Object. Frederick, please.
Frederick?
Okay, here's how it works. Frederick is going to reveal an object that we've chosen. It's completely random to you, and the idea is that you take the object, you can spend as long as you like with it, you can talk out your ideas, or you can do it internally, and just tell us what comes out of it, any story or character or plot or whatever comes out of it.
Do you know how much people pay for that?
Frederick, please.
Your object, my lady.
Oh, look how
Thank
sweet
you,
that
Frederick.
is. I like this. Well, crickets are good luck.
They are.
Yeah. And in New England, people put them in their fireplace for good luck. So that's what I think of. It makes me think of New England and good luck. And then it also makes me think of the cricket in Times Square, which is also cricket's good luck. I don't tend to create stories out of objects, but it makes me think of good luck.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we can certainly build something out of that.
Yeah. I have to say, in terms of process, this is not where I would start with something, with a story.
Yeah.
You know
Jiminy,
what I mean?
what's wrong with Jiminy? You don't like Jiminy?
See, I didn't see that stuff. I've never seen it. I've heard of him, but I've never seen it.
Right.
So I'm fond of this cricket, and I welcome him into our
Oh, well, you
session.
can take him with you.
But I wish I could say that from that would come a story for me, but that's not where I.
Well, where do
tend
you
to-
look for inspiration when you're, when you're looking for a scene, something to hook a scene on, or a character trait, or do you read a lot? Do you?
I do. I have to tell you, it's actually a very private process, and that's probably part of my reluctance to even play around with the object and story. It's very private, and I can get very self-conscious about it. Once something's written and it's on the page and I'm talking with people who are making the movie, I can feel very loose with adjustments and
Right.
changes. But there's a certain bubble of vulnerability that I feel like comes with starting something out and writing a story. And that's why I only have those two people read stuff, because they're within it already.
Okay.
But you have to decide when you're going to break that on something, and you have to feel pretty confident that what you're showing people is what you want to be showing people. And until then, I don't even tell folks what I'm thinking about writing, because if somebody rolls their eyes even a little bit just because they got a little something in their eye, it's a very, for me, it's just a very private and vulnerable thing.
You need to retain that bubble to feel
Yeah,
safe
you need
enough
to
to
protect
write.
it. I would never show somebody like, sometimes people will say, well, can we just see some pages? And that just destroys it for me. I mean, destroys it.
So are you
probably,
very resistant when a studio or producer says, well, can we just see the first act or something?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't do it not because. I mean, first of all, I work fast enough so that people will get it relatively when they're expecting it, and that's not really an issue. And I once did it because they wanted to just keep an actress interested. Of course, it wasn't an actress who ended up doing the movie ultimately at all. It was just. And you don't need to keep them interested. If they're available when the script is done and good and ready, then they'll want to do it, right, if it's what they want to do. The whole keeping someone interested, I realized, is an illusion of activity on a project when all you should be doing is writing.
Do you ever show an outline? Do you ever have to, produce
Yeah,
an
I'll tell
outline or
people an
something,
outline.
or walk somebody through the beats of the story?
Sure, yeah. Yes.
It's just once you've started the actual writing, you feel like that's sacrosanct.
Yeah, because you know what? You have to be able to really, really suck. You got to be able to write really bad stuff and forgive yourself. And I don't know if it's ego or self-consciousness or what, but I don't want the rest of the world to see the stuff I've written that sucks. And I've written a lot of stuff that's really bad, but that's part of the process of getting it good, for me anyway. You write the version that's crap, and then you improve on it. And maybe it would be better to be able to say to somebody, look, this is a crappy version, it'll be better soon. But there are a lot of people who will say, oh, I read something she wrote and it sucked,
Right.
And it's also probably a little bit of silly perfectionism or something, that I want to create an illusion that everything I do is good or something. But it's hard enough looking at your own work and saying, oh, that was bad, I got to make it better. I mean, that's hard enough.
That's a hard one to get through, yeah.
But to then, expose to others the bad version of what you've done, it just takes a a muscle that's a hard one for me.
Right. Well, it's like when you're looking at in the library at AFI, the first draft is actually, the 30th draft.
Of course, yeah. Right. And it's so important, to give yourself permission to fail when you're trying anything creative, that has to be a welcomed part of the process, or you're not taking chances, you're not trying, you're not pushing yourself. If you're not running the risk of failure, then you're probably doing something really safe and uninteresting, or at least me. Me, I don't know. Other people may be able to do it without running the risk of failure, but I just am not very comfortable with public failure, I guess. Or
hey, you're really uncommon in that way.
Well, yeah.
Most of us are, holding up the sandwich boards with, I suck today. Have you ever experienced anything in the industry that you felt related directly to you being a woman?
Here's the thing about that. I feel like gender is never a non-issue. I feel like this interview would be different if I were a man, and this interview would be different if you were a woman. I think it's never a non-issue. But that can swing toward the positive and negative on both, in any configuration
at the same time
of genders. Yeah. So I tend not to think, because I'm a woman, I just don't. I will think, that's sort of a funky vibe between me and that person. Maybe we shouldn't work together. I'll think that. And who knows? I may have a complete illusion about it, and there may be a whole world of work that I'd be good for that I'm not getting because I'm a woman. I've never felt that that's been the primary reason for anything bad that's happened, nor do I feel like it's been the primary reason for anything good that's happened.
So, you seem like you've pretty much gotten the projects made that you wanted to get made, right?
Yeah.
So there would be no reason to think of things that you weren't doing or not getting.
Somebody once said to me, hey, that movie came out that you wanted to write. And I said, what? And he said, that movie that came out, that was the one you were up for, that you wanted to do. And I had completely forgotten that it was something I had worked up a whole, pitch for and gone in, and I had forgotten it. As soon as I don't get something, it's gone. I've heard that that's one of the keys to long life, is forgetting the miseries and not belaboring them. And I just tend to forget them.
Do you ever revisit old scripts that, specs that you've written that are...
There's just, there's just the one, and I didn't like it either.
Okay.
Either.
That makes it
Me
easier.
and all the rest of the world didn't like it.
That's right.
Yeah, and what was interesting, I didn't realize this till I'd finished In Her Shoes, but it was virtually In Her Shoes. It wasn't until the movie was completely done that I looked at it and thought, I tried to write this movie 6 years ago and failed. And now I did it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Again, completely forgotten failure.
Right. Was there much camaraderie? Do you know unfortunately there aren't as many female screenwriters in Hollywood, and it seems, just from an outsider's perspective, that the material is somewhat limited, and the movies that get made that seem to spring directly from a female point of view are not being made.
Well, there are more. The truth is, when I was in film school, I was looking around and thinking, we have a whole handful of good actresses working here, and none of them has the weight of reputation that the women I grew up watching had. When I was going to the movies addictively, every year there would be a movie with Meryl Streep and Jessica Lange and Sally Field and Glenn Close, and all these women would work every year, and they'd work on material that earned them the reputations they have, which are very respected. And there are a lot more. There's another hand. I'm just saving time.
We won't hold you to that.
Sigourney Weaver.
Wait till you start getting the calls after this interview.
No, I like these ones too. And I thought, the actresses working today are just as good. They just don't have the material. So it was a bit of a conscious choice when I finished school to write stuff for them. A little bit of it was just calculated, and thought, you got 5 women looking for a good role. You're gonna get one of them if you write a good role, right? It's gonna get, and one of them will get a movie made. So go ahead and write that movie. But now I feel like there are a lot more. I feel like that has turned. But I also don't think that women have to write female-driven movies either.
I did not mean to indicate that, but just
there's a lot of material out there that women can write well.
which writers do you admire, both screenwriters and other media?
Well, screenwriters, I just stand in awe of Charlie Kaufman, man. That guy, he's just amazing. He's firing. I feel like screenwriting is a combination of art and craft, and he's operating at such a high level on both those planes. And I'll go to anything he goes anywhere near. I think he's so good. Was a Graham Greene junkie for a long time. Now I've read everything he's written. I got to go back to the beginning. Harper Lee, one book.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Right.
I wrote a good one. I'll stop.
Right. And she earned it. Yeah.
Yeah, please. There's something so clean about it. One step up to plate, hit it out of the park, sat down.
What's been the most appalling industry experience you've had, or oddest note, or?
Here's the thing about appalling industry behavior. There is a fair amount of it. There's a lot, and I'll repeat none of it because there's nothing to be gained from that. But one thing it does do, which I think is valuable, is that there's no community standard of behavior. Really, people say and do just about anything, and it tends not to hurt them if they work well. So what it forces you to do, which I think is a good thing, is decide what your own standard of behavior is going to be. Because you could do the most horrendous thing and you'll find someone else who'll do worse, guaranteed, But that said, there are a lot of really honorable, really good people working in the business who just love movies and want to make them good. And, that's, in my experience, that's the majority. But the horrendous things do happen, and I try to just let them go. Honestly, you can bitch about them, and they can make you feel really bad for a long time, and then you just gotta forget about it, or it turns you into someone bitter.
What's been your most gratifying experience?
I had one day on Catch and Release where I actually stopped. We were shooting on a river. It was gorgeous. The whole cast was there. The stuff we were shooting was stuff I really liked. I thought, yeah, that's a good scene. And the performers were great. And I actually stopped and thought, this is one of the great days of my life. Wow. This is like everything. I've got people I love around me. It's a gorgeous day. There are hawks flying above. There's a river. There are actors. This is just a little idea I had one day. And it's everybody's making it come alive.
That's fantastic.
And there aren't many times when I stop and say, oh, this is really cool. Because often the, oh, this is really cool stuff is kind of superficial. But that was a this is really cool moment that felt resonant.
Well, tell us more about Catch and Release.
It's the story of a group of friends in the wake of the death of one of their friends. Jennifer Garner plays a woman who was about to marry this guy, and he died, and he was the shining light among their group of guys. He was the best at everything. And the movie is about their finding out who he really was as they, after they bury him. And I wanted to do a movie about coming into intimacy with someone after he's gone, and having to find a way to get to that deeper level of loving someone for the ways they failed you.
With their flaws, yeah.
Not in spite of, but because of, and so it's the story of her and his group of male friends. And I wanted everybody to, just because of the death of this guy, sink into a deeper level of understanding of each other.
And where did that come from in you?
I had heard, at one point a friend of mine had told me he'd just come back from a funeral of a young friend of his. He had left behind a wife. And he said, that woman is never going to have to sit out a dance as long as she lives, because all those guys' friends are just going to make sure she's never lonely.
Oh, that's an
and
interesting
I thought that was
phenomenon,
really beautiful. And then I thought, there's probably a point at which that would be start to be a little bit of a pain in the ass or a little bit uncomfortable, and the tensions of the absence of someone I found interesting. So that was kind of the start of it, and then, went other places from there.
Well, I know you're probably consumed with that, but do you know what's next for you?
I have some ideas of what's next.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, I have, a rewrite of something that I had done before. I've got some cleanup stuff to do on a couple other things, but the next thing I have yet to start.
Well, we can't wait to see it. Susannah, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. And thank you for watching as well. Don't forget to check out the other great interviews with industry pros in our series. And remember, it all starts with you. The next Written By credit could be yours. I'm Jay Fernandez.